The stars had never looked colder. Captain Alara Voss stared through the reinforced viewport of the Aurelia, her fingers tracing the streaks of light left by distant galaxies. It should have been a serene moment, a whisper of the universe's timeless beauty, but the void beyond her ship pulsed with a quiet menace. Humanity had reached out, offering hands of peace to distant civilizations. Now those hands were stained with fire. Alara's comms crackled, the voice of Ambassador Kale Mara cutting through the tense silence. "Alara, are you seeing this?" His words trembled, though he tried to hide it. He had always been steady, an anchor in the storms of diplomacy, but something primal shook him now. On the screen floated the latest report from Earth Command. The Zharu Collective had destroyed the Earth Envoy. Every diplomat, every representative gone. No negotiation, no warning, just annihilation. Alara's jaw tightened. She had trained for war, yes, but not for this. Humanity had not sought vengeance, yet the universe had chosen to test them. And now she felt it stirring deep within, the first sparks of something ancient, something fierce. "Humanity's wrath. Open a channel to Earth," she ordered, her voice sharp, cutting through the fear. The reply came almost instantly. "Captain Voss, this is Admiral Terran. Humanity mourns, but we will not falter. The Zharu must answer. You are authorized to retaliate, strategically. Do not fail us." Alara felt a shiver travel down her spine. Retaliation, strategic or not, was a path none of them had wanted to tread. But the message was clear, the choice had been taken from them. Humanity's spirit demanded it. The crew of the Aurelia moved like a single organism, their motions precise yet heavy with unspoken fear. Navigator Joran Kane tapped coordinates into the ship's mainframe. "The Zharu system," he whispered almost to himself. "This is where it begins." In the darkness beyond the hull, the stars blinked silently. It almost seemed as if they were holding their breath, waiting for what would come next. Alara turned to her crew, her eyes burning with a quiet fire. "They destroyed our people. They thought we would bow, that we would whisper forgiveness into the void. They were wrong." The room was silent. Then slowly a murmur spread, a ripple of determination. Fear was there, yes, but beneath it, a core of something far stronger. Humanity's unyielding resolve. Lieutenant Rena Sorrell, the ship's communications officer, spoke, her voice steady but fierce. "Captain, we can strike without mercy, but we must remember. The Zharu will not see us coming." "They think us weak?" Alara nodded. "Exactly. They will learn too late what it means to provoke humanity." As the Aurelia leapt into the hyperlane, the stars blurred into ribbons of light, and the crew felt the weight of what they carried. This was not just a mission of revenge, it was a declaration. Humanity would no longer be a whisper in the darkness, a fragile species hiding in its cradle. They were now a storm, and that storm was coming for the Zharu. The silence that had followed the envoy's destruction was ending. The stars themselves seemed to shiver under the approach of humanity's wrath, and at the heart of it, Captain Alara Voss clenched her fists, her mind echoing a promise. "We will not be broken. We will not be silenced. They will feel the fire we carry. Somewhere across the void, the Zharu would awaken, and when they did, they would see the truth that humanity had always known. Survival was instinct. But vengeance was divine. The first tremor of war had begun. The Aurelia moved like a shadow across the Zharu's outer colonies. Stars streaked past, yet inside the ship, time slowed. Every crew member felt the weight of their mission. Not just the weight of the ship's armaments, but the weight of humanity's grief, sharpened into purpose. Captain Alara Voss stood before the holographic display, watching the Zharu worlds rotate, vibrant with life yet unknowing of the storm approaching. Her hand hovered over the tactical console, restrained yet ready. "Remember this," she said softly, almost to herself. "This is the first of many. But it is enough to remind them, we are not silent. We are not weak." Lieutenant Rena Sorrell's fingers danced across the controls. "We've scanned their defense grids. Minimal orbital shields. They rely on intimidation, not readiness. They've underestimated us, our greatest advantage." Her eyes met Alara's, fierce yet shadowed by doubt. "Do we have the right to do this? Even after what they've done?" Alara's gaze hardened. She did not answer immediately. Instead, she looked to the viewport where the first colony glimmered like a jewel in the dark. Then she spoke, voice steady and low, carrying the weight of command. "They destroyed our envoys. They chose annihilation over dialogue. What we do now is not vengeance alone. It is survival assertion. Let them learn the cost of provoking humanity. A silence followed. Then Joran Kane, the navigator, broke it, voice tight. Course set. First strike will hit the mining facilities. Non-civilian targets, but resource critical. Disruption, not slaughter. Alara nodded approvingly. Precisely. They will feel our presence. They will fear our reach, and they will know the cost if they continue this path. As the Aurelia moved into striking distance, the crew felt the tension coil in their stomachs. A quiet hum of dread. Even seasoned officers like Kale Mara, the ambassador-turned-strategist, could not hide the tremor in his hands as he activated the first tactical commands. Weapons online. Targeting confirmed. Captain, we await your order. Ilara's gaze lingered on the shimmering lights of the colony. Children laughed somewhere in those streets, unaware of the cold death approaching from the void. Pain clenched at her chest, but she swallowed it, burying personal emotion under steel resolve. Fire, she said. The Aurelia erupted in controlled fury. Beams of plasma cut through orbital defenses, striking the resource converters with precision. The colony shuddered as alarm screamed. Panic swept through the Zharu population like wildfire, but no lives were targeted directly. The goal was clear: demonstration, not annihilation, yet enough to leave an indelible scar. In the command room, the crew's reactions varied. Rena exhaled sharply, hands trembling. They're screaming. Even the civilians. It's horrifying. Ilara rested a hand on her shoulder. Yes, and yet this is the only language they understand. We warned them. They chose death for our people. Kale Mara's voice broke the tension, steady yet heavy with emotion. Humanity has carried peace for centuries, even when our envoys were mocked, dismissed, or threatened. But this is the threshold. Once crossed, there is no turning back. The Aurelia withdrew into the darkness of hyperspace before the Zharu could retaliate. The first strike was complete. The stars outside the viewport returned to calm, but inside the silence was deafening. Every crew member bore the weight of what they had done, the moral shadow stretching across their souls. Alara turned from the console, walking to the viewport once more. The distant planet faded behind them, yet its echo remained: screams, alarms, chaos, all imprinted in the ship's memory banks. Her lips pressed into a thin line. We have begun, she whispered, and they will feel humanity's wrath. Rena spoke again, voice softer, almost a whisper. Captain, can we survive this? The Zharu will strike back. They will not forgive. Ilara's eyes, burning with something beyond fear or grief, met hers. We are human. We endure, we fight, and we rise. Always. Somewhere across the galaxy, the first tremors of panic reached the Zharu High Command. For the first time in 1,000 cycles, they realized they had awoken something ancient, something relentless. Humanity's fire had been lit, and now it would consume hesitation, doubt, and cruelty alike. The Aurelia sailed on, a silent harbinger of wrath, carrying its crew not just across space, but across a moral battlefield none of them would forget. Each pulse of its engines echoed a simple truth. Humanity had spoken, and the universe would hear it. The warning came too late. The Aurelia was gliding through the outer fringe of the Laren sector when the first salvo hit. Plasma beams lanced through space, shredding the silence like a scream in a cathedral. Alarms screamed. Red lights flooded the command deck. Ilara Voss gripped the edge of the tactical console, knuckles white as the crew scrambled. Report. She barked. Enemy cruisers emerging from hyperspace, multiple vectors. Joran Kane shouted. They anticipated our course. The Aurelia shuddered under the first strikes, hull plating flaring with sparks. Fires erupted along the starboard corridor. Rena Sorrell's fingers flew across the communications panel, sending distress signals and countermeasures simultaneously. They're coordinated. They know us and they're angry. Alara's jaw tightened. Of course they're angry. We've shown them what humanity can do. Now they feel it in their blood. Her voice was steady, yet beneath it simmered a storm. This was not just strategy. It was survival, and survival demanded sacrifice. The crew fought like humans always had, resilient, stubborn, unyielding. Joran maneuvered the ship with near impossible precision, weaving between volleys of plasma that could have shredded lesser ships into drifting metal. Lieutenant Sorrell synchronized countermeasures, creating artificial distortions in the enemy targeting systems. But each evasion burned fuel and energy. Kale Mara, standing beside Alara, whispered almost to himself, "They think they can break us. They think fear will silence humanity, but they do not know who we are." Alara's eyes met his, a fierce acknowledgement passing between them. "Then let them learn." The Aurelia unleashed its own counterstrike. Precision torpedoes streaked outward, striking the lead Zharu cruiser with pinpoint accuracy. It erupted in a fiery bloom, debris scattering into the void. Other enemy ships hesitated, giving humanity the small advantage they needed. Yet victory was heavy with cost. Fires raged in engineering. Crew members groaned under injuries. The first strike of vengeance had led to immediate consequence. Every pulse of the ship reminded them, even in retaliation, humans were fragile. But human spirit was unbreakable. Alara walked the command deck, checking on her crew. One by one, she offered words that were more than orders. They were reminders. "You are not just soldiers. You are humanity's voice, and today we are shouting louder than they ever imagined." Rena Sorrell looked up at her, tears streaking her soot-covered face. I never thought war would feel like this. Not so personal." Alara placed a hand on her shoulder. "Because it is. Every loss, every scream, every strike, they chose this path. But humanity is not defined by fear. We are defined by endurance, by the courage to act when the universe expects us to hesitate." Even the wounded stood straighter, inspired by a captain who carried grief, rage, and hope in equal measure. The Aurelia's engines roared, firing bursts of speed to escape the Zharu counterattack. The first battle was over, but the war had only begun. As they slipped into the dark calm of deep space, the crew finally exhaled. Silence returned, heavy and contemplative. Outside, the stars seemed indifferent, yet the echoes of the fight lingered in the hull, in every sensor, in every heart aboard. Kale Mara spoke, voice soft yet sharp. "Humanity has taken its first stand. But the Zharu will not stop. They will come again and harder. We must be ready, we must endure, and we must remember why we fight." Alara turned her gaze outward toward the distant glimmer of Zharu territory. A fire burned in her chest. Not rage alone, but something deeper, more profound. A promise. Humanity would not be bowed, not by fear, not by force, not by annihilation. Somewhere across the void, the Zharu High Command convened in panic. Their fleets were wounded, their colonies shaken, and for the first time they understood. Humans were relentless. And when humans chose to fight, the universe itself had to bend around their will. On the Aurelia, Alara's eyes softened for a moment, catching the reflection of the crew, brave, scarred, alive. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "We are humanity, and we will endure. And one day, they will understand that to strike us is to awaken a storm that cannot be stopped." The void was quiet again, but beneath that quiet, humanity's wrath began to ripple outward, unstoppable, infinite, eternal. The Aurelia drifted through the cold void of interstellar space. Its hull-scarred engines simmering from the first battle, silence hung over the crew like a shroud, yet beneath it, tension and determination pulsed. Humanity had struck first, and now the Zharu would respond. Captain Alara Voss stood alone in the observation deck, staring at the distant systems that glittered like frozen fire. The first battle had taught them something crucial. Raw courage alone would not be enough. Humanity needed strategy, cunning, and unity. Every action now had to be precise, every strike calculated, and every decision weighed with care. Kale Mara joined her, the lines of worry etched deep into his face. "They are reorganizing. The Zharu fleets are consolidating. This isn't just retaliation, they're learning, adapting. We underestimated how quickly they'd think." Alara's jaw set. "Then we will learn faster. Humanity has survived everything the universe threw at us. Plagues, war, extinction, betrayal. And now we face a species that thinks strength is their birthright. They will learn differently." Joran Kane entered, holding a data pad. "Captain, we've intercepted communications. They're attempting a blockade of nearby systems. It's clever, they hope to corner us." Rena Sorrell, standing beside him, frowned. "Clever, but predictable. They think like a predator. We think like humanity." Her eyes sparkled with a hint of defiance. "And humans never bow quietly." Alara's lips curved into a faint smile. "Exactly. Prepare the counterstrike plan. We won't just react. We will dictate the terms of this engagement." The Aurelia shifted course, moving silently toward a remote asteroid belt on the edge of Zharu-controlled space. There they would stage their next move. Using the belt as cover, the humans would strike in ways the Zharu could not anticipate. It was not just war, it was an orchestration, a demonstration of ingenuity and courage. In the planning room, holographic displays flickered with projections of enemy movements, resources, and potential weak points. Each officer contributed, voices overlapping in a tense symphony of strategy. Ilara listened, considered, and then made the decisive call. We will disrupt their supply chains, hit their fuel depots and communications arrays, minimal casualties, maximum effect. Make them feel humanity's reach without provoking complete annihilation. Yet, the crew nodded, understanding the weight of each choice. They were not just soldiers or pilots. They were ambassadors of humanity's will, carrying the message that no act of cruelty would go unanswered. As they executed the plan, tension mounted. Every maneuver through the asteroid belt tested their skill and resolve. Joran's hands flew over controls, weaving the ship through jagged rocks with near-impossible precision. Rena adjusted shields and decoys in perfect sync, the ship's sensors alive with activity. Ilara, standing at the tactical console, felt a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. This was the essence of being human, facing uncertainty, risk, and danger, yet pressing forward with courage and hope. Each pulse of the ship's engines echoed their resolve. The first strike of this campaign hit like lightning. Fuel depots erupted in controlled explosions. Communications arrays went silent, and supply lines vanished from the Zharu grid. Panic rippled across the enemy networks. The humans were everywhere and nowhere, a shadow that could strike at will. Yet the victory was not without cost. Minor hull breaches, exhausted crews, and the emotional weight of calculated destruction weighed heavily on everyone. Ilara walked among them, offering quiet words of encouragement, reminding them of the larger purpose. Every strike we make, every move we take is not just war. It is a declaration. We endure. We fight. We are human, Kale Mara added softly, almost to himself, and they will never forget it. As the Aurelia retreated into the shadow of the asteroid belt, the Zharu fleet scrambled to respond, frustrated and confused. For the first time, they realized humanity was not just strong, but clever, adaptable, and relentless. Every attack had meaning. Every movement had purpose. Ilara returned to the observation deck, looking at the stars as if reading the universe itself. Somewhere across that vast void, other species watched, and some would wonder, could humanity be stopped? She did not smile. Instead, she whispered to the stars, a vow carried on the cosmic wind. We will endure. We will rise. And those who choose cruelty will learn the cost of awakening humanity. The shadows of the asteroid belt hid them, yet humanity's influence now stretched like unseen lightning across the Zharu domain. Fear, strategy, and resolve mingled, and the first threads of the Zharu's unraveling had begun. The Aurelia had barely escaped the asteroid belt when the first counterstrike arrived. Unlike previous skirmishes, this assault was brutal, unrelenting, and precise. The Zharu had learned, and they had adapted. Every jump into hyperspace, every evasive maneuver, every calculation was met with a deadly response. Alarms blared, shaking the ship violently. Red lights splashed across the command deck, throwing shadows over faces lined with fear and determination. Ilara Voss gritted her teeth. "Report! Multiple warships, Captain," Joran Kane shouted, voice tight. "They've anticipated our trajectory. Their firepower is overwhelming." Rena Sorel's fingers flew over the controls, deflecting beams, rerouting power, recalculating shields. "We can't outrun them. Not like this. We're going to have to fight our way through." Ilara's eyes swept across the command deck, drinking in the faces of her crew, scared, exhausted, yet unwavering. Her chest tightened with both pride and fear. "Then fight we shall. Humanity does not yield. Not now, not ever." The Aurelia twisted and darted through space like a living organism, plasma lances tearing past its hull, detonating in controlled bursts that rattled the ship from stem to stern. Every crew member knew the stakes. Every moment counted. Kyle Mara, his usually calm demeanor fraying at the edges, spoke sharply.
"Captain, this is a test."
"Not just of strategy, but of our resolve. They aim to break us." Ilara's gaze hardened. "They will not break us. Humanity is not measured by fear, but by courage. Every scar we bear, every spark we survive is proof of that truth." The battle raged on, The Zharu fleets pressed forward with relentless ferocity, attempting to encircle the Aurelia. But humans had adapted too. Using rapid maneuvers, feints, and calculated risks, they turned the chase into a ballet of death and defiance. Rena's voice, tense but resolute, pierced the chaos. Weapons ready, Captain. Precision strikes on their engines and targeting arrays. We hit them hard, then vanish. Elara nodded. Do it. Make them fear the reach of humanity. Torpedoes streaked forward, striking Zharu ships with pinpoint accuracy. One cruiser erupted, another lost navigational control, spinning helplessly into the void. The humans were fewer in number, but their coordination, ingenuity, and sheer will made them formidable. Yet even as victory flickered on the edge, the crew felt the weight of their actions. Every destroyed ship carried lives. Every calculated strike demanded emotional tolls. Elara walked among her crew during a brief lull. We do not celebrate destruction, she said quietly, but we embrace survival. We honor the lives lost among us by ensuring humanity endures. Rena looked at her, eyes glistening. Captain, can humans be this unstoppable? Elara's eyes softened, reflecting the distant stars. We don't always feel unstoppable, but we are resilient. We rise when everything else falls. That is the essence of being human. The Zharu regrouped, launching another wave of attacks more ruthless than the last. Plasma streaks cut the void, and the Aurelia shuddered under their fury. Injuries mounted, hull integrity faltered, and exhaustion clawed at every mind aboard. But humans endured. With every tactic, every maneuver, every spark of hope and determination, they reminded the Zharu of one undeniable truth. Humanity does not bow, does not break, and does not yield to fear. Elara's voice rang out across the command deck, steady, commanding, unwavering.
Hold the line!
Push forward!
We are humanity, and they will remember that in every star, in every system, and in every heart that dares to threaten us. The Aurelia emerged from the assault battered, smoking, but victorious. The Zharu had underestimated the human spirit, its ferocity, creativity, and unyielding will. The crew, bruised but alive, realized that true power was not in ships or weapons. It was in the courage to stand when every instinct screamed to flee. Elara stood at the observation deck, watching the distant enemy retreat. Her reflection merged with the stars. They will come again, she whispered. But every time they do, they will meet the same truth. Humanity endures, and humanity strikes back with fire they cannot quench. Across the void, a ripple of fear began to spread among the Zharu. For the first time, their pride cracked. They realized that humanity was not a species to negotiate with, manipulate, or dismiss. Humanity was a storm, relentless, unstoppable, and righteous in its wrath. And aboard the Aurelia, Captain Elara Voss allowed herself the smallest, fiercest smile. Humanity had survived. Humanity had won. And humanity's wrath was just beginning. The Aurelia drifted into uncharted space where the Zharu had grown complacent, believing themselves untouchable. Captain Elara Voss stood on the command deck, her eyes scanning the holographic maps projected before her. Every system, every fleet movement, every weak link in the enemy network had been studied. Humanity was no longer merely reacting, they were dictating the war. Joran Kane, the navigator, leaned over the console, tracing possible hyperspace routes. Captain, if we jump here, we can cut off their supply lines completely. They'll be trapped in 3 systems with no reinforcements. Elara's eyes gleamed with calculated fire. Then we do it. Humanity does not wait for opportunity. We create it. Rena Sorel's voice trembled, but determination sharpened her tone. And we hit them where it hurts most. Communication arrays, fuel depots, even their command ships. Every strike precise, every maneuver unpredictable. We make them fear every star in their sky. Kale Mara stepped closer, his expression heavy but resolute. This is unprecedented. No species in known history has fought like this, calculated, relentless, unyielding. Humanity is showing a form of war that is as much psychological as physical. Elara nodded. Yes, we fight with every tool we have. With courage, with ingenuity, and with the knowledge that the universe must respect us, or it will burn under the consequences of ignoring humanity. The first phase of their plan unfolded flawlessly. The Aurelia jumped into the enemy's rear systems, striking fuel depots with pinpoint accuracy. Explosions lit the void, illuminating the crew's faces with fire and shadow. The Zharu fleet scrambled, confused and enraged, yet every human action had already predicted their reactions. Amid the chaos, the human crew's emotions ran deep. They were afraid, yes, but fear sharpened them rather than broke them. They were angry, yes, but anger was disciplined into strategy. And they were resolute, unwavering, because the stakes were not abstract. They were personal and universal. Alara walked among her crew, placing hands on shoulders, whispering words that were more than encouragement. They were a reminder of who they were. Every move you make, every calculation, every strike, it carries the weight of our species. We fight not for vengeance alone, but for survival, for dignity, for the truth that humanity will never bow to cruelty. Rena looked up at her, voice trembling. Captain, it's working. They're retreating, but I've never seen fear in their communication. Not like this. Alara's eyes softened, reflecting both pride and sorrow. Fear is a tool, Rena. Respect is the endgame. Humanity will earn both. The Aurelia's next maneuvers struck the enemy's command fleet directly. With precise coordination, the humans disabled their flagship, severing control over surrounding units. The Zharu ships floundered, a tangled web of confusion in the void. Every system they had relied upon for dominance had been compromised by ingenuity, courage, and adaptability, the very hallmarks of human spirit. Yet even in victory, the cost was clear. Hull breaches, exhausted crew, and the shadows of moral responsibility hung heavy. Each action carried weight, each victory a reminder that humanity's wrath came with consequences. But the crew pressed on, fueled by a shared belief: survival and justice could coexist. Alara returned to the observation deck, staring at the stars, the reflection of explosions and fires shimmering in her eyes. Somewhere across the void, the Zharu High Command reeled, their arrogance shattered. For the first time, they understood what they had provoked. A species that did not bow, did not flee, and did not fear, even in the face of annihilation. Her voice broke the silence, soft but unwavering. The storm has begun, and it will not end until humanity is heard, respected, and feared, not because we seek vengeance, but because we are alive, and we will endure. As the Aurelia sailed into the darkness, leaving trails of chaos in its wake, a profound truth settled over the crew. They were not just fighting a war. They were writing history. They were demonstrating the essence of humanity: courage tempered by wisdom, strength balanced with morality, and resilience that burned brighter than any star. The Zharu would rebuild. They would retaliate. But every move humanity made from now on carried certainty. They were a force unlike any the galaxy had faced before, and one day every species would recognize it. The storm of humanity had been unleashed, and there was no turning back. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Across light years of void, the Zharu fleets reeled from the relentless campaign of the Aurelia. Once proud systems lay disrupted, command lines fractured, and morale shattered. Humanity had become a shadow in the darkness, precise, unstoppable, and righteous. Captain Alara Voss stood on the bridge, staring at the holographic projection of the Zharu homeworld. It gleamed peacefully, unaware, or perhaps unwilling, to grasp the storm that had descended. For centuries, the Zharu had ruled through fear, believing strength alone ensured obedience. They had never encountered a species that refused to bend. Never until humanity, Kale Mara beside her, spoke quietly. "They'll strike back, Captain. This is their last stronghold. They'll gather every ship, every weapon. They'll try to crush us completely." Alara's eyes glinted with unwavering resolve. "Let them come. They will learn at last that humanity cannot be crushed. Not through numbers, not through fear, not through fire. We endure because we choose to rise. Every setback, every wound only strengthens us." The Aurelia prepared for the final maneuver. Fuel and weapon reserves were stretched, and the crew bore exhaustion in their bones, yet their spirits burned brighter than the stars outside. Every officer, every pilot, every technician knew the truth. Survival alone was not enough. Humanity demanded recognition. They demanded to be respected, feared, and understood. Joran Kane's fingers danced over the navigation panel. "Course locked, Captain. We can strike their central fleet before they organize defenses, but it's risky. Hyperspace jumped directly into the heart of their system." Alara's gaze hardened. "Risk is the language of survival. Engage." The ship shivered as it slipped into hyperspace, the stars blurring into streams of light. Every soul aboard felt the tension, the fear and the raw adrenaline that came with standing on the edge of annihilation. And yet beneath it all there was pride, fierce and unshakable. Humanity had endured worse and survived. They emerged in the Zharu system unseen, undetected. The central fleet stretched across orbital space, massive warships bristling with weaponry. Yet the humans moved with precision, striking critical engines and control hubs. Explosions bloomed in slow-motion horror, metal and fire scattering into the void. Every strike was surgical, every action intentional. Humanity was not cruel, they were resolute. The Zharu attempted a counterstrike, but coordination failed. Systems overloaded, ships collided, and panic rippled through their ranks. Fear spread where once arrogance had ruled. Humanity had rewritten the rules of engagement. Amid the chaos, the crew worked seamlessly. Rena Sorel's hands flew across controls, coordinating strikes, rerouting power, and maintaining shields. Joran Kane piloted the Aurelia through the battlefield, weaving between debris and enemy fire like a phantom. And Alara? She stood at the bridge, eyes blazing, a silent embodiment of humanity's spirit. Unyielding, clever, and indomitable. Kyle Mara whispered, almost in awe. "They're breaking." "They're truly breaking." Alara's voice carried across the deck, calm yet commanding. "Not breaking, learning. They are learning what it means to provoke humanity, and this will echo across the stars." The final moments of the battle were swift and decisive. The Zharu flagship erupted, signaling the collapse of centralized command. The remaining fleets retreated, fractured and demoralized. Humanity had won, not through indiscriminate slaughter, but through strategy, resilience, and courage. The silence that followed was profound. Stars glittered cold and distant, yet the humans aboard the Aurelia felt a warmth deep within, the knowledge that their species had risen against impossible odds, not through blind rage, but through ingenuity, compassion, and unshakable resolve. Alara turned to her crew, exhausted but triumphant. "Look at them," she said, nodding toward the remaining Zharu vessels retreating into the void. "They now understand what we always knew. Humanity endures. Humanity rises. And humanity cannot be silenced." Rena exhaled, tears streaking her soot-smudged face. "We did it. We truly did it." Alara smiled softly, her gaze returning to the stars. "Yes, but this is more than victory. It is a declaration. We are here. We are alive. And the universe will remember us not as a fragile species clinging to survival, but as a force of courage, resilience, and unbreakable spirit." Somewhere across the galaxy, species watched the ripples of humanity's actions. Some would tremble, some would hope. All would remember. Humanity's wrath had been awakened, but it was tempered by justice, by intelligence, and by the boundless courage that only humans could carry. The Aurelia set course for home, the crew battered but unbowed. Humanity had faced annihilation, betrayal, and fire, and emerged stronger, wiser, and unbroken. The echoes of their wrath would linger across the stars forever, a reminder of what it meant to be human, resilient, fierce, and eternal. And Captain Alara Voss, standing at the observation deck, whispered into the void. Her words carried across light years. "We endure. We rise, and no one will ever forget humanity."